Venus in Scorpio reflects my views on money and relationships. I want to have power in a relationship, intransigence, passion, and control. I want a lot of money, the money of the partner. I want to test the relationship as well as my finances. This is the core theme, the deep motivation upon which aspects, dispositors, and other factors are layered. The dispositor is the link between the outer world and my psychology. For the planet to activate its function, for it to start working, we need the dispositor, the trigger, the stimulus. The dispositor of Venus is the stimulus for the desire to earn, to form connections, to build a relationship. The dispositor of Mars is the stimulus to action. And the aspect between Mars and another planet will show what will happen as soon as I begin to act. The dispositor is visible to the people around you. It's how others perceive your planet in a sign. They can sense it, touch it. The reason why I do something will be shown by the planet in a sign, which is not visible to the outside world. Let's take the moon in Sagittarius as an example. Its unconscious vital need is to be an expert, the smartest, to teach everyone to be the best and to be elitist. However, if the moon is in square or in opposition to Saturn, as soon as the person tries to give instructions or act in an elitist way, the opposition with Saturn is immediately triggered. It activates a toxic social pattern, which gives rise to feelings of internal shame and guilt. Over the years, the moon in Sagittarius, aspected by Saturn in this way, eventually gets broken and falls into its lower pole, that of Gemini. Instead of growing and becoming an expert, the person begins to appeal to Gemini's traits, learning, studying, participating in endless training sessions, accumulating tons of information, and becoming a walking encyclopedia. However, this acquired knowledge becomes useless. Why does the person do this? She has this vital motivation to be an expert, to know everything. But this motivation is broken, and the person cannot manifest it, so she unconsciously tries to fill the void with something else. I must learn this and that, and then this, and do it again, etc. In this case, the key is opening up, revealing that moon in Sagittarius. To set goals, to teach, to become an expert, to join elite circles, to release its potential and express it outwardly. The dispositor represents the external level, visible to others. It is my external psychology. When we describe someone, we are actually describing his dispositors. The person is aggressive, assertive, dominant in relationships, or on the contrary, gentle, self-sacrificing. All these traits correspond to the dispositor plus the aspects. The dispositor will always slightly dominate the aspects. When working with the dispositor, we do not consider the planet itself in the role of the dispositor, but rather the sign and the house where the dispositor is located, as well as the tightest aspects of the dispositor with other planets within a 3-degree orb. For example, Mercury in Aries, with its dispositor in Pisces. I do not take into account that it's Mars. I remove it, forget it, and only focus on its position in the sign and house. When analyzing dispositors, we only use the planets of the septenary, the classical 7 planets from Moon to Saturn, and we do not consider the superior planets. For Mercury in Pisces, we take Jupiter as the dispositor, not Neptune, which is the first ruler of Pisces, since it is a trans-Saturnian planet that we don't use. For the moon in Scorpio, we take Mars as the dispositor, not Pluto. For the moon in Aquarius, we will take Saturn and not Uranus. The most important factor is the position of the dispositor in the zodiac sign, and our task is to connect the planet in its sign with the sign of the dispositor. The house and aspects of the dispositor are secondary, additional parameters. An interesting point that reinforces the idea that we shouldn't mix the psychological and event-related levels of the chart. You want to build relationships according to Venus in its sign, and you act according to the Dispositor in its sign. However, life can be harsh, cruel, not fair when, in the end, you build relationships according to your 7th house, the event-related formula, and you manifest your psychological characteristics within the event-related formula. The topic of the sun and how to awaken it is very popular in astrology, and we discussed it in lesson 4. Do you remember the homework after lesson 4 where you had to find symbolic actions to activate your sun in the sign? Back then, it was too early to delve into this further, but now I'm telling you one thing. It's pointless to perform actions according to the solar sign alone. It will quickly fade away. The action won't solidify the sun's position in a sign without its dispositor. For example, the sun is in Aries, the dispositor is in Libra. I find joy in life and the meaning of existence when I act alone, take initiative, compete, or lead. The theme of sports is also present in the sun in Aries. But according to the dispositor in Libra, I shouldn't engage in sports alone. I need to do it with a partner in a team where I can constantly compete. Mars's function as such is to act when it has to. Mars retrograde in turn starts thinking and analyzing when it actually has to act, which leads to negative outcomes. How to handle this? Before making a stack of pancakes, you need to make 3 failed ones first. For example, if you are writing an article, you should write several drafts. You have to start with a pilot project to make a try and to experience a few small failures. Mars retrograde cannot show initiative right away. It needs time. For Mars, the retrograde phase is a bit complicated because it tends to think first, but it shouldn't think too much. It should take action immediately. Note that Mars retrograde is an excellent executor. It can organize everything perfectly and complete all tasks where immediate initiative is not required, where things need to be set in place, arranged or adjusted first. However, Mars retrograde can also lead to tendencies of self-blame and stress because the person wants to do everything perfectly from the first time. The native notes and finds failures, defeats, problems, and weaknesses that are very difficult to handle. Moreover, modern society imposes a hectic pace, telling us that everything should be done right from the first time. You don't need to do anything special with the retrograde planet, you just need to change your approach. Try 2 or 3 times, get some negative experience so you can fully use the planet's function. For example, write a draft essay first, create several drafts, maybe even more than once, and then deliver a clean final version. Aspects and other factors can mitigate or break the retrograde phase. Retrogradation is not the same as affliction. Mars retrograde wants to take initiative, even being in reverse movement, thinking first. Afflicted Mars, in turn, falls into the lower pole, the pole of Venus, which alters the planet's function. One important particularity of retrograde phases of the personal planets is that the retrograde phase is easily broken or cancelled or mitigated if the planet is in the first 3 degrees of a sign. These are called anaretic degrees, which accelerate the planet's movement. Here the planet's external activity is so intense that consciousness cannot keep up with its actions. The first 3 degrees of a sign are considered critical. The term comes from the Greek word anaretikos, meaning destructive. The second factor is if the planet is in a tight aspect within an orb of 3 degrees with Uranus, Mars, or Pluto,